There is something strange that many people miss when reading about Jesus Christ. Again and again, after performing incredible miracles, healing the sick, casting out demons, even raising the dead, he would say something unexpected. "See that you tell no one." Gospel of Matthew 8:4. Why would someone with that kind of power ask people to stay silent? In another moment, after healing a deaf man, it says, Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone, but the more he did so, the more they kept talking about it. Gospel of Mark 7:36. This creates a mystery. If his mission was to reach people, why limit the spread of his miracles? To understand this, we have to look deeper, not just at the miracles, but at the purpose behind them. At that time, many people were waiting for a Messiah, but their expectation was very different. They were not looking for a savior of hearts. They were looking for a political king, someone who would overthrow oppression and take power. So when people saw miracles, they didn't always see truth. They saw opportunity. In one moment, after a powerful miracle, the crowd reacted like this: "Surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world." Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself. Gospel of John 6:14-15. Do you see what's happening? They didn't fully understand him, but they wanted to use him. That's one reason for the silence. If the news spread too fast, people would try to control his mission, turning it into something it was never meant to be. There is another moment that reveals even more. When Peter realizes who Jesus truly is, he says, "You are the Messiah." But then it says, Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. Gospel of Mark 8:29-30. Why hide something so important? Because knowing who he is without understanding why he came can be dangerous. Right after this, Jesus begins to explain that he must suffer, be rejected, and be killed. But they didn't want that. Even Peter struggled to accept it. This shows something powerful. People were ready to accept a powerful Messiah, but not a suffering one. So if his identity spread without the full truth, it would create confusion, false expectations, and resistance. There's also something deeper about human nature. Miracles attract attention, but not always transformation. People can be amazed without truly changing. In another teaching, Jesus makes this clear. An evil and adulterous generation seeks for a sign. Gospel of Matthew 12:39. He wasn't impressed by people chasing miracles, because it's possible to follow signs and still miss the truth. If people only came for healing, food, or wonders, they might never come for real faith. That's why in many cases he reduced the noise. He didn't want followers who were just curious. He wanted followers who truly understood. Another powerful reason is timing. Everything in his mission was moving toward a specific moment. Not earlier, not later. In one place it says clearly, "My hour has not yet come." Gospel of John 2:4. This wasn't random. If his popularity exploded too early, it could lead to conflict before the right time. It could rush events that needed to unfold slowly and purposefully. Even when people tried to arrest him earlier, it says, no one laid a hand on him because his hour had not yet come. Gospel of John 7:30. So the silence wasn't weakness. It was control. He was guiding the mission step by step, not letting crowds or hype decide the outcome. There's also a very personal side to this. When Jesus healed individuals, it was often about them, not the crowd. For example, after healing a leper, Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man, "Be clean." Immediately he was cleansed. Then he said, "See that you don't tell anyone." Gospel of Matthew 8:3-4. Why? Because not every miracle was meant to become a public spectacle. Some moments are sacred. Turning them into public stories could shift the focus from God's power to human attention. It could even harm the person who was healed, bringing pressure, questions, or unwanted attention. And then there's one of the most important truths. Jesus never wanted fame built on misunderstanding. He wanted truth revealed at the right time, in the right way. That's why, after his resurrection, everything changes. The silence is gone. Instead, the message becomes, "Go and make disciples of all nations." Gospel of Matthew 28:19. Now the time had come. Now the full story was complete. His life, his sacrifice, and his victory. Now people could understand not just the miracles, but the meaning behind them. So when you look back, the command to stay silent was never about hiding the truth. It was about protecting it from misunderstanding, from misuse, from being reduced to just spectacle. It was about making sure that when people finally saw clearly, they wouldn't just be amazed, they would believe. And maybe that raises a question for us. If we had been there, would we have followed him for the miracles or for the truth? Because even today, it's easy to look for signs, solutions, quick answers. But the deeper call is still the same. Not just to see what he can do, but to understand who he is. If you think about it, silence wasn't the absence of purpose. It was part of the plan all along.